doing? What are we doing? And I'm like, I don't know. So they're nagging me, which is great because I just got 2 ex-wives who were total nags.
The morning sun never broke through the thick blanket of clouds hanging over Flagstaff, Arizona. It wasn't the soft, dreamy kind of overcast you'd see in a tourist postcard. It was heavier, darker, as though the day itself knew something ugly was about to erupt. The air bit at every inch of exposed skin, forcing the crowd outside the courthouse to pull their jackets tighter. Yet no one moved. Fans of Sister Wives, die-hard followers of the Brown family saga, stood shoulder to shoulder with hardened reporters and curious locals. Phones were out. Camera lenses gleamed like loaded weapons, each one waiting for the perfect moment to fire. It didn't matter if you had defended Kody Brown for years or swore long ago he'd one day get exactly what he deserved. Everyone had gathered for the same reason. This wasn't a TLC production. There were no scripted storylines, no second takes. This was real life, and the stakes were far higher than ratings. The courthouse doors reflected the restless mob like a giant mirror, flashes from cell phones slicing the gray morning like lightning in a brewing storm. The buzz of speculation rippled through the crowd, low at first, then swelling. Whispers of FBI involvement. Murmurs that Christine had handed over something devastating. Words like embezzlement, fraud, and betrayal drifted in the air, thin and dangerous like smoke. Then the sound of tires against wet pavement snapped every head toward the street. A black SUV, sleek and tinted so dark it was impossible to see inside, rolled to a slow stop at the curb. The noise shifted, gasps, excited cries, the hurried clicking of cameras. The rear door opened, deliberate and unhurried, as though the moment had been rehearsed. Kody Brown stepped out. But he wasn't the man America remembered from those early years. Smiling, confident, his golden curls loose and wild, surrounded by wives and a camera crew. This Kody's expression was carved in stone, his jaw set, his eyes fixed ahead without a single flicker of emotion. The golden mane that once gave him a boyish charm was tied neatly back, every strand in place. He looked less like a reality, TV patriarch, and more like a defendant walking into a reckoning. The crowd erupted, shouts firing from every direction. "Kody, is it true? Did you steal the money? Kody, look here!" But his gaze didn't waver. From the other side of the SUV, Robyn emerged. Her head was lowered, her hand clamped around Kody's arm as though she feared he might vanish if she let go. The moment the cameras caught her face, she seemed to shrink further into her coat, her hair falling like a curtain to hide behind. If Kody radiated cold defiance, Robyn was the picture of unease, each step heavier than the last. Flanked by 2 men in dark suits, their attorneys, they climbed the courthouse steps. The massive glass doors opened and swallowed them whole, cutting them off from the chaos outside. Inside, the atmosphere shifted instantly. The marble floors echoed with each step, the air cooler, the smell of old paper and polished wood thick, with the history of verdicts and ruined lives. As Kody and Robyn approached security, the murmurs began, small, fast, unstoppable. The bailiff's sharp commands for silence were no match for the flood of whispered speculation. Embezzlement. Over $1 million? Christine's here. They're going to bury him. Kody's jaw flexed, but his stride remained steady. Robyn kept her eyes fixed on the floor as though searching for cracks to disappear into. Down the hall, a local news crew adjusted their tripod. A reporter in a red blazer rehearsed her opening line, voice low and precise. Today, former reality TV star Kody Brown stands accused in a case that could change everything for the once famous Brown family. Before another word could be spoken, the bailiff's voice rang out. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Patterson." The order echoed off the high ceilings, chairs scraping the floor in unison like a clap of distant thunder. Kody stepped forward beside his lawyer, every eye locked on him. This was no TLC set. This was not his kingdom. And for the first time in years, he wasn't the man writing the script. In the front row sat Christine. Her hands rested neatly in her lap, her posture perfect, her expression unreadable. There was no warmth in her eyes, no trace of nostalgia for the man she once loved. Her gaze was cool, almost surgical, locked on Kody as if she'd been waiting for this moment far longer than she'd admit. Just a few seats over, Janelle sat stiffly, her arms folded tight, lips pressed into a thin line. She hadn't planned to be here. At least that's what she told herself. But when the subpoenas landed, she knew her silence had run its course. The judge entered, his black robe brushing against the bench as he took his seat. The gavel struck, once, sharp, final, slicing through every thought in the room. And then the clerk began to read the charges, each word heavier than the last. The state of Arizona versus Kody Brown. Charges include financial misconduct, misappropriation of funds, and fraudulent activity. Somewhere in the gallery, a woman gasped. Cameras clicked like gunfire. Outside, hashtags were already climbing. Trends. Inside, no one moved. This wasn't about episodes or editing anymore. This was about survival. Christine's gaze never wavered. She told herself she wasn't here for revenge, that this was about truth, about holding someone accountable. But beneath that steady calm, something old and personal burned, a reminder that the man now facing ruin was once the man she had trusted with her life. A few rows behind her, Janelle's fingers tapped rhythmically against her arm, the only outward sign of the storm brewing inside her. And in that courtroom thick with tension, everyone could feel it. The Brown family's reality had already shattered. The only question now was how far the pieces would scatter.
She thought was in this, but it was...
Because she loved you?
No, she was attracted to me. I know she wasn't in love with me.
For years, Janelle had been the reluctant peacekeeper, the one who tried to hold the cracks in the Brown family together while everyone else seemed intent on pulling them apart. But that role had died the day she saw the evidence. Loyalty had been sliced clean through, and now she sat in the courtroom with an expression carved into neutrality, her fingers tapping a slow, steady rhythm against her sleeve, not in impatience, but in calculation. She was reading every flicker of Kody's face, every twitch, every shift in his eyes, like she was decoding a language she'd known all her life. All rise! The bailiff's voice thundered through the room, wooden benches scraping against the floor in unison. Judge Patterson entered, black robe flowing, his expression as immovable as the bench he sat behind. The American flag loomed behind him, tall and unyielding. This court will hear the case of the state of Arizona versus Kody Brown, he announced. Each word deliberate, settling in the air like weight added to a scale. The silence that followed was broken only by the soft, sharp click of a pen. Kody's attorney rose. Tall, polished, and dressed in a navy suit that spoke of money and preparation, he moved with the confidence of a man who'd faced tough rooms before. His voice was smooth, almost too smooth, each word sliding out fast as if sheer speed could rewrite the facts. Your Honor, my client stands before you not as the caricature the media has made him, but as a husband, a father, and a businessman who has been unfairly targeted by individuals nursing personal vendettas. His words were precise, practiced, but in this room, they seemed to hit an invisible wall. Across the aisle, the prosecutor sat motionless, a woman in a charcoal suit whose steel gray eyes never softened. She didn't interrupt, didn't shift in her seat. She simply waited, a coiled spring, knowing the moment to strike would come. Christine barely moved, but when her lawyer leaned in to whisper something, the faintest tightening of her lips suggested confirmation of a long-held suspicion. Kody's gaze flicked restlessly between Christine, Janelle, and the mountain of documents stacked on the prosecution's table, a fortress of tabbed and color-coded folders, each one a chapter in a story he wanted buried. From the public gallery, you could feel the division, one side willing to defend him to the bitter end, the other watching with anticipation for his fall. In the middle, the press scribbled notes, their eyes darting like cameras between the opposing sides. The defense, attorney's voice swelled with confidence, the so-called evidence is circumstantial at best. My client has managed the finances of a large, complex family under constant public scrutiny. Mistakes, maybe, but criminal intent? Absolutely not. Christine's lawyer didn't even look up, simply turned a page in his notes with the casual air of a man waiting for his turn to dismantle everything the defense had built. From her seat, Janelle's eyes narrowed. She'd heard Kody weave these convincing narratives before, spinning words into a version of reality only he believed. But today, the threads were unraveling faster than he could tie them back together. The judge watched it all in silence, occasionally jotting notes in a leather-bound book, his expression unreadable but alert. When the defense finally rested, the prosecutor rose. She didn't rush. She looked first at Christine, then Janelle, then finally Kody, letting the pause stretch until the room leaned forward in anticipation. "The state intends to prove beyond any reasonable doubt," she began, her voice calm yet lethal, "that Kody Brown deliberately misappropriated funds for personal gain. We will show you the paper trail. We will show you the witnesses. And, by the end of this trial, the truth will be undeniable." The room went still, the silence heavy with implication. Christine's lips curled into the faintest smile, not triumph, but validation. Then came the moment that shifted the air. The prosecutor reached under her table and pulled out a thick, overstuffed black folder, the binder clips straining against its bulk. She didn't rush. The slow, deliberate way she placed it on the table was an act of power in itself. Sliding it toward the defense, she said clearly, "Our authenticated financial records show over $1 million in missing funds traced directly to accounts controlled by Mr. Brown." The words landed like a thunderclap. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then came the whispering, growing louder, rippling through the gallery like a rising tide. "1 million. No, that can't be right. Oh, it's right." Even Kody, master of the unflinching poker face, blinked once before reassembling his mask. He adjusted his tie like the small gesture could ground him. Beside him, Robyn's face had drained of color. Her lips pressed so tightly together they nearly vanished. She kept her eyes locked on the table as though meeting Kody's gaze might confirm her worst fears. The defense attorney snapped the folder open in a display of bravado, papers spilling out like a dam breaking, bank statements stamped with official seals, wire transfer receipts, signed authorizations. He flipped through them quickly, but the too fast pace betrayed his unease. "This is absurd," he said, standing abruptly. "These are personal family funds, not public money. My client has done nothing illegal. This is a witch hunt disguised as financial misconduct." The prosecutor didn't even blink. "These are not family expenses, Mr. Collins. We will show the court exactly where the money went, and more importantly, exactly who moved it." She turned to the bailiff with a finality that sent a chill through the room. "Call the state's first witness, Miss." The heavy double doors at the back of the courtroom creaked open, and in stepped a man in his late 40s, his presence immediately shifting the room's energy. He wore a crisp gray suit, the kind that announced professionalism, and glasses that caught the fluorescent light as he moved forward. His hair was meticulously combed, but the unease in his eyes gave him away. This was a man who would rather be anywhere else, yet fate had dragged him here. Taking the stand, he raised his right hand and swore in with a low but steady voice. The prosecutor's tone was firm, businesslike. "Please state your name and occupation for the record." "David Whitaker, certified financial advisor. I worked with the Brown family from 2013 to 2019, he replied. Her next question landed like a subtle warning shot. "And during that time, were you responsible for overseeing the family's financial accounts?" "Yes," Whitaker said, his voice tightening. "I managed multiple accounts tied to income, from the Sister Wives television program, along with personal and business investments." Christine shifted in her seat. She knew this man. Years ago, she'd approached him about the family budget, only to be brushed off with the vague reassurance, "Kody handles it." The prosecutor stepped closer, her voice softening but edged with steel. "Mr. Whitaker, did you ever discover irregularities in these accounts?" Whitaker adjusted his glasses before answering. "Yes, on multiple occasions, I found large withdrawals and transfers into accounts that were not part of the official family portfolio. These accounts were in Mr. Brown's name alone." "And were these transactions authorized?" "They were," Whitaker said, "by Mr. Brown himself, usually through direct phone calls late at night." The prosecutor let the words hang before asking the question that made the room still. "And what exactly did Mr. Brown say during these calls?" Whitaker exhaled heavily. "He told me to move the money before anyone noticed. He didn't specify who anyone was, but the tone was urgent. I was instructed not to tell the other family members. A wave of gasps rippled through the courtroom. Christine's eyes stayed locked on Kody's face, searching for the tiniest fracture, a twitch, a grimace, anything. But Kody sat like stone, his jaw just slightly clenched, the muscle in his cheek tightening every few seconds. Janelle closed her eyes briefly, as if the truth, long suspected, had just been carved into stone before the world. The defense attorney rose, pacing like a man confident in his next move. Mr. Whitaker, you've worked with high-profile clients before, haven't you? Yes. And large last-minute transfers are not unusual in business management, correct? Sometimes, Whitaker allowed, but not to personal accounts that bypass the agreed family budget, and without informing key stakeholders. The defense smirked. Stakeholders? You mean the wives? Whitaker nodded without hesitation. And isn't it possible, the lawyer pressed, that Mr. Brown was simply protecting his assets in case of marital disputes? Which, for the record, is perfectly legal. I can't speak to his motives, Whitaker said evenly. I can only speak to the facts. And the facts are that over $1 million left shared family accounts and entered personal accounts accessible, only to Mr. Brown. Christine's lawyer leaned forward, pen poised like a weapon ready to strike. The judge cut in sharply. The court will consider motive at the appropriate time. Continue. The defense tried shifting tactics, rifling through the thick binder the prosecution had presented earlier. In all your years managing the Brown accounts, did you ever witness my client spend money illegally? No, Whitaker admitted, but my role wasn't to track spending, only to execute transfers as instructed. Where the money went, after leaving the accounts, is beyond my scope. The defense smiled faintly as though they'd landed a blow, but the prosecutor remained unshaken. She stepped forward again, her voice steady but heavy with certainty. Mr. Whitaker, are the records in this folder accurate and complete? Yes, ma'am. And do they reflect exactly what you saw happen under Mr. Brown's direction? They do. The prosecutor turned to the judge. The state moves to enter these documents into evidence. So ordered, the judge said, his gavel punctuating the words. The thick folder was placed on the clerk's desk like a live grenade, visible, undeniable, and ready to explode at any moment. The air in the courtroom thickened. Spectators leaned forward unconsciously. Journalists' pens slowed, all eyes drawn to the stack of paper that might seal Kody Brown's fate. Christine exhaled the faintest breath, her eyes locked on Kody. He sat as though unaffected, but she caught the slight tightening of his jaw, an almost imperceptible crack in the fortress he'd built around himself. The short recess had done nothing to cool the atmosphere. If anything, it concentrated the tension like steam in a sealed kettle. The gallery buzzed with whispered theories, the bailiff barking for order. Everyone could sense the next move would be pivotal. When the prosecutor spoke the next name, the reaction was instant. A stir swept through the room. Christine Brown. Christine rose slowly, smoothing her jacket with deliberate precision. She didn't rush, and she didn't stall. Each step toward the witness stand was calculated, the walk of someone who understood the full gravity of this moment. At the stand, the clerk extended a small Bible. Christine placed her left hand on it, raised her right, and answered without hesitation. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do, she said, her voice clear and steady, neither trembling nor loud, but carrying the weight of someone who had finally decided to speak.
Because of the nuance of a breakup. And I don't know what this is going to lead to. I don't know what else is going to go on.
The prosecutor gave Christine a brief nod and stepped back, giving her the space to collect herself, though it was clear she didn't need it. I want to start by saying, she began, her eyes sweeping the jury, I'm not here to destroy Kody. This isn't revenge, it isn't bitterness. This is about our children. They deserve to know what happened to the money that was meant for their future. Her voice didn't waver, yet each word carried a weight that made the courtroom lean in. Kody's lawyer shot to his feet instantly. Objection, Your Honor. This is emotionally charged and irrelevant to the financial accusations. The judge leaned back, considered for a moment, and then said firmly, Overruled. The witness may continue. This court will hear her perspective as it relates to the family finances. Christine nodded politely to the judge before turning back to the prosecutor. Mrs. Brown, the prosecutor began, can you describe the financial situation in the years before these charges? Christine's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. For years, I was told not to worry. Kody said he had it under control. I trusted him. But over time, I saw things. Bills unpaid, savings drained, college funds gone. When I confronted him, he'd tell me it was temporary, tied up in investments or real estate. But whenever I asked for details, I got vague answers, or he'd change the subject. She glanced toward Kody. For the first time, his eyes met hers, hard, unblinking. And what was the atmosphere in your home during this time? The prosecutor pressed. Tense, Christine admitted. We fought, not just about money, but about trust. I felt like I was living with a stranger, and when I pushed too hard, he shut me out completely. The prosecutor then handed her Exhibit 14, a $75,000 withdrawal from their joint account. Were you aware of this? She shook her head. No, I found out months later when I tried to pay my daughter's tuition. Kody told me it was for a land purchase. But there was no land. I later learned it went into one of his private accounts. A ripple of shock spread through the gallery. The defense lawyer rose again, his tone condescending. Mrs. Brown, you've been publicly critical of my client since your separation, haven't you? Christine didn't flinch. I've been honest. There's a difference. And isn't it possible your testimony is influenced by personal grievances? The facts speak for themselves, she replied coldly. I didn't create those bank statements. I didn't forge the transfers. The defense lawyer shrugged and sat down. The prosecutor returned. Mrs. Brown, did you have any control over the accounts in question? No, she answered firmly. Kody was the only one with access. She prepared to step down, but before she could, Kody's voice suddenly cut through the air like a knife. Christine, you're twisting this. You've been against me since the day you left. The room gasped. The judge's gavel cracked. Down. Mr. Brown, you will remain silent unless spoken to. Kody leaned back, jaw tight, his polished reality TV image flickering under the weight of the moment. Christine walked past him without a glance, the click of her heels echoing long after she sat down. The prosecutor called the next witness, but the tension in the air remained electric. Then, just before adjourning, the judge dropped a bombshell. In light of the evidence presented, and to prevent any potential dissipation of assets, this court orders that all of Mr. Kody Brown's known assets be temporarily frozen. For a beat, the words just hung there. Then chaos erupted. Kody's lawyer protested. Your Honor, this is extreme. Counselor, my decision is final. The judge cut in. Robyn's face went pale. Kody's fists clenched. The gavel came down again, ending the day. Outside, reporters swarmed. Kody, do you have a comment on the asset freeze? Robyn, are you afraid your home could be seized? Do you deny the embezzlement? Allegations? Neither answered, pushing through the crush toward a black SUV. Meanwhile, Christine left through a quieter exit, her stride calm, posture unbroken. There was no smugness, only the steady resolve of someone who had told her truth. On the courthouse steps, the crowd buzzed like a live talk show. Signs declaring justice for the Browns waved beside others reading Kody is innocent. Arguments broke out, live streams broadcast every theory, and hashtags like Kody on trial and sister-wife scandal exploded online. Footage from inside the courtroom spread instantly. Christine's testimony, Kody's glare, the judge's announcement. TikTok dissected every eyebrow raise. Late-night TV hosts couldn't resist. One quipped, Kody Brown's assets are frozen, so maybe the sister wives should start sister thawing. In the SUV, Robyn finally broke the silence. They're going to go through everything, Kody. Our house, the accounts. I know, he snapped, cutting her off. Across town, Christine sat at her kitchen table, ignoring the flood of messages. She sipped tea, staring into the Arizona night, knowing this was far from over. Some predicted Kody's legal team would come out swinging tomorrow. Others believed this was the beginning of the end. By the time the courthouse steps stood empty under a lone security light, one thing was certain. When the doors opened at 9:00 a.m., the storm would hit harder than ever. And whether Kody walked out a free man or deeper in trouble, the world would be watching.